Hey, someone help him! That's me, friends! Don't talk to him like that! I'm Joel Anderson, and I'm an artist, an author, an illustrator, a philanthropist, an animator, and I have autism.
Joel was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. And for him, that meant that he would repeat words back that he heard from people. If I said, "Hi, Joel," he'd say, "Hi, Joel." He didn't have a regular conversation, but he would memorize all the videos he watched. We finally noticed that he was trying to connect his video talk with what he was trying to tell us. And one day he said, "Pooh Bear needs honey. Pooh Bear needs honey." And we're like, "What? Okay, Pooh Bear needs honey." And then he was like, "Oh no, he's hungry." He was trying to tell us through Pooh Bear that Joel himself was hungry.
Sometimes self-control, social skills, and manners are hard for me to get into control. Have you ever seen a bully picking on someone in need?
It turns out that Joel is very talented in the
It's okay to be a
arts.
friend to someone who is different from you. I tell stories in animation and my art and my music that it's hard for me to say in real life. And being in an imaginary world makes me feel happy and impressive and energized. I want people to understand that us people with autism are very creative and we add value in that. When I was 16, I told Mom I was going to speak to the schools to end segregation against disabilities at schools.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm Joel Anderson. I'm going to read to you medieval trio tales, Courage to the Concert, written by me and illustrated by me.
When Joel goes to speak to elementary schools, he's spoken to probably 10,000 kids by now, from elementary all the way through university. And the kids, they hear a story and they hear his book. His book is all about courage and sticking up for someone in need. And we've had shifts in kids of, hey, I never told anybody, but I have a younger sibling with autism. And this child might be in 6th grade and had never told anybody. But now all of a sudden, Joel's up front. He has autism, he has his art, he does his animation, he's cool. And so now this young child say, hey, it's okay now. I don't have to hide my brother anymore. That's a huge paradigm shift in a family. And we just feel so blessed that Joel could be a part of that.
The lovely lady Linda and her brother, Sir Simon the Knight, came downstairs from their castle chambers. I'm looking forward to the Spring Festival concert tonight.
We get letters from kids saying, I loved your book. Now I'm going to stick up for someone in need. I'm not going to let anybody else bully a kid with special needs or for whatever reason, stop the bullying. And it's been exciting to see the difference in kids in schools.
Yeah, let's go taking pictures. Great class.
We hope that as Joel continues his future and being an adult now, that he can continue to use his skills of animation and graphic design and painting to make good quality professional product for kids. It's just finding the people that can support him in that and helping make his dreams come true.
My ultimate goal is to help children with autism around the world and produce films with good character qualities.
You can have a joyful life with children with special needs. Along the journey, you can still have joy, you can have fun, and we do. We always say life would be boring without our kids. These guys just want to be loved like we all do. So it's very important for families to know that they can do this together. You can get help out there. There's lots of neat agencies like the Autism Tree Project Foundation and different groups that we work with that want to help the families be a happy, healthy family. I always knew when my kids were young and that they had disabilities, I wasn't going to hide them under a rock. And if the Lord could use them in any way, I wanted to have my hands open and that He could use them in any way. I'm honored that my son could have that impact.
I think God created everyone with a purpose, and everyone is important and special.
Please welcome Johnny and Friends Vice President, Christian Institute on Disability, Steve Bundy, and guest artist and animator, Joel Anderson.
Well, good morning. Good morning. And Joel, let me say welcome to you once again, because you are an inspiration to all of us here at Global Access. Your life and yes, please. Your life and your ministry is an encouragement to all of us. This morning, your mother made a comment to me that God had called you to the nations. And what she didn't realize is that Global Access, God was going to bring the nations to Joel. Amen? And so, Joel, I understand that you were inspired to help end segregation of special needs children in schools. You were inspired by the life of Martin Luther King Jr. Tell us about that.
When I was 16, back in 2006, I asked Mom I could end segregation in schools for disabilities, just like Martin Luther King, who did the same for racial between the whites and the black people. So in 2007, in March, I spoke at my first elementary school in San Marcos. I spoke to 1,000 kids there.
Wow. And since that time, Joel, you have spoken to over 10,000 students. Is that correct?
Yes.
Amen. 10,000 students. Amen. Yes. And so, Joel, what is the main message when you speak to these students? What's the main message you like to give them?
I asked them to stick up for someone in need and be a friend to people with special needs and not be a bully.
Amen. And you're not just a national speaker, but you're an international speaker. You've traveled to a couple countries. Which countries are those?
I traveled to Canada and China.
Canada, and China.
Yes.
And so in Canada, I understand that you received a very special award. What was that?
It was the inaugural International Natural Autistic People Awards for ANCA for community achievement. I received it in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada in 2010. The next year after that, I returned to be one of the hosts for that award ceremonies, and I even led an art workshop and sang and sell my art there. And in 2012, I was the ambassador for the Natural Autistic People Awards from the United States.
That deserves another round of applause, friends. Now, in China, I understand that you did something special at an orphanage there. Tell us about that.
When I was in China, I was at an orphanage in Jiaozhou. I spoke to caregivers, teachers, and college students who work and I told them about myself and my journey across the spectrum with my translator who speaks Chinese, and I speak English, so the translator can translate in Chinese for them. And I painted the animals outside their rooms in the hallway while they're taking a nap. And as they woke, they were excited to see it.
Wow.
And I painted many murals with a Noah's Ark theme with Chinese animals on it. Some of the murals hang in other special needs centers in Beijing, Nanjing, and Jiaozhou. And in Beijing, I met people with an autism child.
Well, I can only imagine the surprise on those children's faces when they woke up and saw animals painted all over the walls. That must have brought a lot of joy to them.
Yes, it does.
Well, Joel, what is your message for us here today? What's one thing you'd like to leave with us today?
There are four points that I could tell you, everyone out there. Be a friend, be a mentor, be an employer, and be the heart of Jesus.
Amen. Amen. You just heard a 4-point biblical message, friends. Well, Joe, you express your message a lot through the arts, through the books you've written, paintings that you have done, and outside the auditorium after the plenary session, Joel will be at a speaker's table. He'll have his artwork there, his books there for sale. You can learn more about his ministry there. He has information on his ministry, and I know you'll want to connect and learn more about Joel. Maybe have him speak in your church or in your school or in your country. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in thanking Joel Anderson once again, friends. All right, Joel.